Hey, how's it going? It's Justin McDonald here with another quote for you. Not from a book. At least I don't think it is. I did try to search the internet a little bit to see if I could find where Gary Halbert said this, but I, I don't know. But what he said is absolutely true. It's almost a timeless quote if you think about it. And I say timeless for anybody that's like definitely born after 2000, right? Because the internet is definitely alive and well at that point. And from here on out, we're going to be experiencing the internet indefinitely. And Gary Halbert passed away 13, 14 years ago. And I'm not sure when he said this, but I do believe he did say this, that the internet is not free unless your time is worthless. And I think just about anybody in any profession, in any walk of life, could probably appreciate that quote. And if they can appreciate that quote, then maybe they view their time as being worthless. So there's a lot of good examples for that too. And this quote was probably written, I would say, when it was viewed, like, let's say you go to the library. Let's say you were going to the library in earlier 2000s to use the free internet. You didn't have to pay anything for it. You didn't have to pay anything for your library membership. Let's pretend. And you get to go and surf the internet, or maybe it's at school. Get to surf the internet as long as you want, as much as you want, for free. But doesn't free come at a cost? If you have to pay for something with your time, is it necessarily free? That's the real question here. And some people might not have anything better to do, and they might not value their time the same way somebody else is. And the millions of people that aren't watching this right now, that are probably busy working or um, working on something, whether, like, I can't just sit here and watch Justin or somebody else make videos and little clips like this for the internet, because my time is valuable. There's people that rely on me. They might need their phone for other things. They might just, they're just so dialed into their work and their family and their friends and their social life and everything else that they don't have time for mindless scrolling and things like that in social media. I am myself. Of course, now that I discovered social media as being a better outlet to broadcast my message, it's easy for me to spend too much time on it. And um, yeah, 80-90% of the time I'm on the computer, it's something productive, at least in my world, where I am writing or creating a piece of content that can be used for all kinds of purposes, to help people, to teach people, to get my name out, kind of at the same time. I'm like helping people out. In exchange, I'm just kind of like having more eyeballs see my content. Um, so it's an interesting way to pay for my own advertising. I'm basically paying for my own advertising by doing the work, which is creating the content. And we are living in a content creating world these days. If you can actually build high quality content, then your chances of getting your message across, especially if it's relevant, um, your chances of getting the message across are going to be increased. And you could basically spend like no money virtually and slowly build a following and success by relentlessly on a daily habitual basis pumping out and creating high level content. And you have to do that too. And you have to be personal. But that can even consume a lot of your time. And everything around that can suffer, will suffer, if you spend all your time on the internet or if you spend too much time on the internet. So just to take that into another, let's like put another spin on what Gary Halbert was saying. By the way, Gary Halbert, the greatest living copywriter of all time, dubbed as the Prince of Print. And I highly recommend anybody that's into like high level advertising, um, direct response marketing, copywriting. Um, if you're somebody that is trying to build a business and sees like, well, why don't I send cold DMs, I guess you can say, to people, or like in social media, when you're basically sending people cold messages, it doesn't mean you're being cold. If you know what I'm talking about when it comes to like getting your name out in advertising, like cold emails, cold DMs, cold calls, they're all kind of the same thing. And it just means that you're just calling and reaching out to the prospective or the prospect, um, just not like blindly. You like have a aim, but they aren't expecting your call at all. They're not expecting your message or your email. And you're just sending them a message, um, whatever it could be. Maybe it's to sell your services or whatever. And that is also a very tedious process too. It's a hard way to get clients, but it does work and there's ways to do it. And the people that do it well do it really, really well. And then there's people that do it that like kind of ruin the game just like anything else. And those kind of cold calls you're probably familiar with, and they used to be called, well, they are called spam calls, but they used to be very popular, especially in the mid 90s, early 2000s. I bet your parents or your grandparents had this problem too, especially you might have this now on your actual cell phone or your iPhone or your Android, where you're getting solicited calls, um, and sometimes they could be disguised as other people. Sometimes they're asking for money. Sometimes they're just like uh, a business that's like kind of just doing those kind of like sales calls, and they like pretend like they know who you are and stuff, all that stuff. Those are like good those are good examples of bad examples of cold calling. Those are very common examples of cold calling. And just like anything else, like in marketing and advertising, people see marketing and advertising and capitalism and all these things as bad words. Um, and it's a lot of it is because, there's bad players that have exploited certain areas of business in such a way where it left a bad taste in people's mouths. So when you think about advertising for a moment, a lot of people think of advertising as mass advertising, mass marketing, the junk they get in the mail, the junk they get in their junk email folder, um, the obvious like robotic like people on social media that have like not a big following, or maybe they do somehow and they've only been on social media for a short time, and you could tell that they're like um just trying to sell you something. So like Yeah, that's annoying. And then as far as advertising goes beyond that too, like if you ever still watch TV, of course, if you know anything about how the TV even works, it's pretty clear that everything's lined up for ads, for commercials. And then like the shows have been built around commercials probably since the beginning of time when it comes to TV, just people don't realize that. And then you can say the same thing for the radio too. Um, it's becoming more and more obvious nowadays too. It was it was different. I feel like if you go back like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, if you go back years ago when it comes to like TV and and radio, like the way they would uh, do the ads was a lot different than they do now. I mean, you don't even know half the time what they're even trying to sell you. But there's just a lot of funny, rememberable jingles and stuff like that because it was just a different time. A lot of times they would have like actual pop stars and musicians and stuff like do stuff like that, do like commercials for like like Pepsi or different soda companies and stuff like that. I mean, they might still do that. I'm not really as tuned in, but mass advertising is what's been giving advertising a bad name, in my opinion. Like, because most advertising that you probably see is like flashy colors, flashy sales, just sleazy, like boring, just empty, more like brand awareness, like billboards, kind of like, hey, here we are a business, come do business with us, kind of billboards and ads and banner ads even, and ones that you see on the side of the road. They're all pretty tacky and they don't really do well anymore. I don't know why they don't understand. Like, if there's a call to action, there's a whole nother philosophy to that. But if it's just like brand awareness kind of ads, which you see a lot of, they're just annoying. The best kind of advertising, really, and the most effective one, is actually word of mouth. I know it sounds boring and lame, but it is. It's like it comes down to even like what you want to eat for dinner or breakfast or lunch, to uh, what music you want to listen to or buy or see, or movie. What movie you're going to watch or watch with your family or your date or your children. That's all like that is all marketing, by the way. Um, because what I mean, in some way you have to take like basically market research and find a way to sell it to yourself or your family or something too. Like, think about like when it comes to certain like, you ever watch like a movie, or you wanted to watch a movie and like you weren't sure if like the rest of like the family or your friends or date or whoever or kids would want to see it too. You would probably be like, well, so and so actors in it. And like that's a common way like we use marketing in a form of manipulation, to get others to kind of see like what we want and to kind of go along with what we think. I know it's not bad at all actually, but like, I mean, that's and then it's same thing with food too. Like, what if you wanted to try like a new restaurant with your friends or family, or what if you wanted to try a new, what if you wanted to get a child to try something new for food? You might be like, oh, but there's cheese in it, or oh, they make burgers over at that place, or tacos or pizza or something like that, or like you're trying to find something that the other person probably likes because you did market research without knowing, probably, and calling it market research. You obviously have recollections of what the other person likes and wants, and and their tastes. So like, when you're trying to narrow down restaurants or what to eat for dinner or what to make and stuff, like, you're probably trying to find common threads. At least that's what I would do if you want to get to an agreement, right? Now, the internet is not free unless your time is worthless. If you want to go back to that too, you can even go to like things like freemium kind of apps, or a lot of times a lot of products and services have like a free something that's like free attached to it. So like you're like in this illusion, you have this illusion that it's like free, but you don't like consider your time, like the time invested into it. Um, Even school, like public school, or if you go to a community college and you're getting loans and grants, um, and things like that, and financial aid, it might appear to be free financially. I get that. But your time can't be replaced. Money, I know it's a hard thing for even me to even sink in sometimes, but money is the easiest thing to replace. Pardon the interruption there. I want to just finish this off. I had a call come through, actually from the fire department because I'm a volunteer there. Um, so I think I kind of left off at something that's like either even hard for me to sink in, which is that your time is valuable, and that money is the easiest thing to replace, probably other than water. And I know that's hard for a lot of us to understand, but when you really like think about what's replaceable in life, it's one of the most common things that we replace and replenish. And we might hold it to a higher standard, but our time is what's really valuable. So just remember that your time is valuable, and even though something might appear to be free, or it might be like given to you for free, if you're investing time into it, it becomes more valuable the more time you put into it. At least it is in my opinion. So it just goes to show you that your time is very valuable. It can't be replaced. Once that minute goes by, once those minutes go by, once those hours go by, you cannot get those back. So it's probably in your best interest to be more mindful about stuff too. And sometimes in life you want to pay full price. Sometimes you want to pay for things that can free up your time too. So, before I go into another tangent, I'm just going to leave this off. I'm sorry for the interruption that happened just a few minutes ago. That's, the life of being on call sometimes. Peace be with you.